And we are live. What is going on, everybody? How is everybody this evening? I just got back from seeing No Time to Die, the latest, the 25th James Bond film. And I'll just say this for an initial reaction. I more or less, I more or less like the. I think I more or less like the movie. I felt it fit. I thought it fit in quite well with the rest of the Daniel Craig movies and stuff. Um, it it's definitely not the worst of the Daniel Craig movies. That honor still goes to Quantum of Solace. That movie is just that movie is just freaking awful. Like just it's between the editing and the how they shot everything and the plot. It's not easy on the eyes, and it's nonsensical, and the villain is very weak. Dominic Green in Quantum of Solace is weak. They don't even talk about him in like they barely mention him in Spectre, because apparently Spectre is connected to everything. Um yeah, this movie, I mean, I would go as far as say I'm leaning more towards the positive side of things when it comes to I don't know, when it comes to like my reactions and stuff. So where to begin with this? So this movie is was a couple years in the making. This got it got delayed several times because of the pandemic and everything. So here we have Bond, and I mean, it was marketed that this would be Daniel Craig's final outing as James Bond, and not only that, but this would be like this would be more of a modern. This would be according to the director Kerry Fukunaga right here. This gentleman, according to him, this would have more modern sensibilities and stuff. Things that they got away with in the '60s that me and Marty talked about last week. They wouldn't get away with today. So I mean, what they how was it put? It's a film for the Me Too generation. Honestly, I don't know what that means. Maybe that means Zoomers, millennials, who knows? But I mean, I kind of was, and they so like whenever here's the thing, and I read this when you read articles about movies and stuff and what to expect, and I'm sure you guys already know better, but do not believe a word that any like if a director or a producer comes out and says something about a movie or about a character, don't believe it. Don't believe it. Have an open mind. Um, Temper your expectations, of course, but don't believe what they're saying. So they said, "Oh, here's what did they say that? Oh, this movie's going to really show, a Bond adapt to, it's going to be so different for Bond. The stakes or everything is different. I mean, it's not that much different. I mean, from the previous Craig movies and stuff. I mean, the big joke is like he's trying he like they make the joke like how Bond in every single movie going as far going all the way back to even like Dr. No, he can woo any woman and stuff because he's just has the he's got the chemistry, he's got the suave, he knows how to dress, he knows how to talk, he knows how to woo the ladies and stuff. Well, they kind of make a joke about that in this movie, and I will get into it once I talk about spoilers. But I'll let you guys know when I start talking about spoilers and stuff. Um, so here, so besides that, so director Fukunaga said, that this would be different. Well, kind of and kind of not. So, um, the other thing, producer Barbara Broccoli, if you don't know who she is, she's the daughter of Albert Broccoli. Albert Broccoli and Harry Saltzman were the ones that founded Eon Productions. And Eon Productions is what's been making the Bond movies for, well, next year will be the 60th. Next year will be the 60th anniversary of the release of Dr. No. And I'm guessing that they started production, or the project got started, and like, I mean, there were so many attempts. I mean, they made a Casino Royale, um, like TV series. It was starring American actors and stuff. I forget who plays who, but I mean, Peter Lorre plays Le Chiffre, who's the villain of Casino Royale. Um, so, so there were ideas to make Bond. There was ideas to make Bond uh, a thing even before Eon Productions, Broccoli and Saltzman got their hands on it, got the rights to it. Um, I'll say one thing: the Spectre organization. Now, I'm sure you guys all know the Spectre organization was the main villains of the first 7 films, with the exception of Goldfinger. Goldfinger was separate. But Spectre was the main villain of the original 7 films. And after that, they couldn't say Spectre. I think after On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was the 6th Bond film, they could not speak of Spectre or include Spectre or something. And because their rights to Spectre were controlled not only by Ian Fleming, but also by Kevin McClory. He was another producer that met with Fleming to write a Bond story that could be adapted to cinema. And this was before Dr. No and Eon Productions got involved. So they worked out a deal to make Thunderball. And I don't know how, but they got away with using Spectre for the first 6 films. But if you watch For Your Eyes Only, the beginning of that movie, which ties back to On Her Majesty's Secret Service with, Bond visiting his wife's grave and stuff, and you see Blofeld. I mean, you clearly see Blofeld. They just don't call him by name, or they don't say who he is, or give a hint that Spectre's still around and stuff. So I don't know what happened, but I'm guessing they just managed. I mean, Kevin McClory's been dead since for 15 years. I think he died the same year Casino Royale with Daniel Craig came out, and he basically. I don't know how, but they were able to get the rights back to use Spectre, and they used Spectre in the fourth Daniel Craig movie, Spectre, of course. So, but yeah, Spectre was created for the novel, or for the story, the novel, or the novel that would become Thunderball and stuff. So, because in the early books of Bond by Ian Fleming, they did the main villain of or the main organization that was causing all of Bond's problems was SMERSH, which was basically Soviet counterintelligence. I think they're known for their death to spies little moniker or something. But SMERSH is a real organization, so they did not use that in the films, but they do mention them in From Russia with Love. Because in the original book From Russia with Love, SMERSH is like From Russia with Love is the 5th book. So Casino Royale is the 1st book, Live and Let Die is the 2nd book, Moonraker's the 3rd book, and then I think From Russia with Love is 4 or 5. I don't remember exactly, but in the villains in each of those books, you have Hugo Drax, who's the villain in Moonraker, and in Live and Let Die, he's just the villain's known as Mr. Big. So they included him as Mr. Big in the movie to kind of honor the book, the original book that came out, but he's not known as Kananga, Dr. Kananga in the book at all. But and of course you have Le Chiffre and Casino Royale, and they're all agents of SMERSH. So they didn't include that, and so when From Russia with Love came out, or the novel From Russia with Love, which was John F. Kennedy's one of his favorite books of 1959, 1960, I think. It's basically the same story. Like SMERSH tries to get revenge on Bond for him taking out their agents, and the only thing is that book ends on a cliffhanger because at the end of From Russia with Love, Klebb tries to take the Lecter from him. And in the movie, they call it the Lecter. In the novel, it's called a Spector, Spektor. So, so they get him. So she tries to get it, but they corner her, and the dagger comes out of her shoe. in the movie they are able to stop her from kicking Bond, but in the book she manages to kick Bond with the dagger, and he falls and loses consciousness, and that's how the book ends. So it ends on a cliffhanger. Of course, he's okay. So, but yeah, so Spectre was created for Thunderball, and so there's a. I was talking about the Blofeld trilogy with Marty earlier. You only live twice, on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and Diamonds Are Forever. Well, in the books, it's actually first is Thunderball, then On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and then um, You Only Live Twice. So in the Blofeld trilogy in the movies, You Only Live Twice is the first film. In the book series, You Only Live Twice is the last film, and that's he fights Blofeld. Blofeld's dressed up as a freaking samurai in the book for some reason. I don't know, and he kills Blofeld ultimately. Whereas we don't really see him. We never see Blofeld die in the original films. I mean, if you count For Your Eyes Only, he takes Blofeld. He uses a helicopter to pick up Blofeld in his wheelchair because apparently Blofeld never recovered from his neck injury in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, even though he's fully recovered in Diamonds Are Forever. Odd with continuity, but yeah, he just drops him in like a smokestack. He picks him up. He picks up his wheelchair with the bottom of the helicopter. The thing that the one of the legs of the helicopter picks him up, drops him in the freaking smokestack. So I guess that was Blofeld's end. Here in we do see Blofeld again in this movie, No Time to Die. So so going back, this movie really connects with. It tries to do some, there's some little callbacks to some famous shots. I mean, it's kind of made to be like the final film, like like a final episode of a series, a long running series. It kind of ends where it begins. Well, it's kind of like that here, kind of. I mean, not quite like but like visually, if you look at the visual style of especially the final, the villain's fortress and stuff looks very equivalent to Dr. No's. So yeah, same type of thing. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and spoil the movie now. So if you're not interested, I'm sure you guys are here are interested in hearing what I have to say, and I appreciate that. So I'm going to talk about No Time to Die. So let's just say this is the fifth film. I'll say about the Daniel Craig series. It's very strict with it's more strict with continuity than all the other films. I consider all the other films to be the same 007. I mean, because they've directly referenced events like Bond's wife was mentioned in a few Roger Moore movies. Spy Who Loved Me, obviously For Your Eyes Only goes to visit the grave and stuff. I think they even mention his wife in the Timothy Dalton movie. I think it was I don't know if it was Living Daylights or License to Kill. I don't remember. So let's take a look and see. Before I go any further, let's take a look and see who's in the chat. So we got Whoopa Troopa is in here. What's up? Hope you're feeling better. Jake D is here. What's up, Jake D? Our famous Jake D's our famous shenanigans maker / lurker / chief of marketing. He's if he was a Spectre agent, he'd be the Spectre agent of marketing. Then we have Punk Waddle, music fan and lover of penguins. Ironcaster's here. What's up, Ironcaster? He's got a channel too. He's part of was it Pop Culture Archives, I believe. And of course he does every Tuesday, I believe, he does Gundam. He does him and Brightest Day and others do Gundam. They talk about an episode a week of the original Gundam, so check him out. We have Green Lantern 345. He's got a channel, Goggles and Gadgets. Check him out. I'm sure you guys all have. Everyone who's here has. And Whoopa Troopa says to the victor, go the spoilers. Buckwall says, I've heard things already. Please smash that like button. Well, thank you. So, all right. So, going back to Daniel Craig's Bond movies, so they're stricter with continuity. So, we start, so, we meet Bond, Daniel Craig's Bond is kind of a reboot. He becomes the first movie, Casino Royale, he becomes a double O agent. The first scene is basically him earning that double O agent by he has to kill somebody in order to do that. So he takes out a traitor in the MI6. So and then of course that follows up with that crazy set piece where he's chasing that one dude, and I forget what country he's in, some Caribbean country, chasing him up the cranes and the construction site, jumping, doing death-defying stunts or stunts that would cause serious injury. And the thing about Daniel Craig, and I've read this about him, and just looking at trying to figure out what's real and what's not. A lot of the stuff he did was super dangerous, so I can see why he didn't want to do another Bond movie, and why he he really squeezed them to get as much money out of it as he could, especially for No Time to Die. So we go back to going back to Bond. He basically is trying to I forget what he was trying to do in Casino Royale, but he tries to stop a terrorist from blowing up an airport and stuff, and that was crazy as well. And then he meets Vesper, and he has to take on the Chief. They're trying to find out who is funding. They're trying to find out how these governments, how these terrorist organizations are getting funded, and they basically are I don't know if he was invited, but he's basically supposed to take on the Chief, and I think it was poker or something. I don't know if it was poker or something, but so I'm not sure. But yeah, so he takes on Lashif. Lashif beats him a couple of rounds, and then Lashif starts to lose, and tries to poisons Bond. Bond goes into cardiac arrest. He has to freaking defibrillate himself, and then he wins. He comes back. He wins. Him and Vesper he meets Vesper. Vesper Lind is the woman that he falls in love with in the movie. She shows up in the second half, and she's basically in charge of the money. So he's going in to take on the Chief, and you have to have you have to have 5 to 10 million just to enter, just to enter the game. So she's the one providing him the money and stuff, and she's in charge of everything. And they fall in love. She gets caught up in the middle of a gunfight between Bond and a couple of one dictator dude and his couple of his henchmen, trying to get their money back from Lashif, because Lashif they find out that Lashif actually lost, and he lost their investment. He needs to win this game in order to get the money back. So, but it's not like that. Lashif works for an organization, and Mr. White's is like a representative of that organization in this movie. And we go, and so Bond wins the game against Lashif. Lashif kidnaps him and Vesper, and Lashif tortures him by taking a rope and just hitting him continually in the balls. He's sitting on a chair with a hole in it, and the rope hits him in the balls and stuff. And it does that until, Deus Ex Machina, Mr. White from the organization that Lashif is employed, he comes in and he executes Lashif for failing to beat Bond and stuff. But they leave Bond alive. We find out that's the reason, because Vesper made the deal with Mr. White to not have them harm Bond. She was basically a victim of the organization, Mr. White's organization, being blackmailed, because she fell in love. She was in love with someone else, another agent dude guy who we meet in this next movie. But they basically threatened to kill him and stuff if if she doesn't obey them and stuff. So she takes the money that Bond wins and tries to deliver it to them. Bond follows her. Then there's a nice little set piece fight in a Venice building that's being crumbled down and stuff. And Vesper gets locked in an elevator and she dies. And Bond tries to save her. He gets her out of the elevator somehow, and she doesn't make it. So, and Bond hates himself and he hates her for letting herself die and stuff. So that was a big thing that kind of bled into the other films. Quantum of Solace just kind of picks up, of course. Casino Royale ends with Bond tracks down Mr. White, shoots him in the leg, and he says, "I'm Bond, James Bond." And then Quantum of Solace starts, and that movie is just begins with a set piece right away. There's a chase, he kidnaps Mr. White. They're shooting at his car. Mr. White's in the trunk. Somehow Mr. White doesn't die, and then stuff happens. Mr. White escapes, of course. There's another set piece where Bond is chasing a guy, another MI6 agent's a traitor, so he's chasing him out to the ends of the earth and stuff. And that leads into we of course we meet Felix Leiter. Felix Leiter in these movies is played by Jeffrey Wright. And Felix Leiter is a character that has been with us since Dr. No. In the original movie, Dr. No, he's played by Jack Lord. If you don't know who Jack Lord is, he played Steve McGarrett in the original show known as Y50. Not the new one, not the Alex Kurtzman, Roberto Orci one, but the original one from the 60s, 70s, 60s and 70s. So, and this is before he did that. But going back, Felix Leiter's been with Bond several times. He's been played by multiple actors. I don't think he's ever been played more than once or twice. I mean, maybe the one in Live and Let Die came back in License to Kill, I think. But other than that, he was always played by a different actor. So so we meet Felix Leiter. He helps him stake in the Chiefs game, and then he comes back and gives Bond some the point of the main purpose of Quantum of Solace is he's trying to come to terms with losing Vesper because it happened just right then and there. And M, played by Judi Dench, doesn't trust him. She thinks he's just a mad murdering machine. And he goes and tries to hunt down this Dominic Green guy who is, connected to Mr. White. And then we find out, Dominic Green, he's a lame villain. He's a lame little villain who is head of an organization called Quantum, and they're trying to monopolize the water supply in, I think, Bolivia. Everybody thinks it's oil, but it's actually water. The CIA makes a deal with him, and Felix Leiter's involved. He's the assistant of David Harbour. David Harbour plays the main CIA agent that makes the deal with Dominic Green. And Jeffrey Wright Felix is trying to convince David Harbour's character to not go with it, but he does. So he's kind of a villain, but he doesn't really do anything. He sends the CIA after Bond and stuff. So Bond goes, tracks down Dominic Green and helps and basically takes him out in a burning hotel. There's other bad guys there, and then he doesn't take him out. Dominic Green escapes, but he basically takes everybody else out. And he tracks down Dominic Green. He makes him, gives him a gun, or he gives him some oil or something poisonous to drink if he wants to die, because he's being left out in the desert and he cannot get to civilization in time. So that happens, and Bond manages to track down Vesper Lynd's boyfriend, who she was protecting in the first movie, who she got blackmailed for. They find out that he's a piece of work, and he basically woos other agents or people of various countries and stuff. And he faked his death. He simply faked his death and didn't really care about what happened to Vesper. So, Bond, completing his character arc in that movie, did not kill him. So they all thought he was a mad dog. Well, Bond did not kill him. So and that's basically Quantum of Solace. And we have Skyfall, which is probably several years later, and that kind of begins a new story. And so Skyfall, everyone knows what happens in Skyfall. We meet Miss Moneypenny, we meet Q for the first time. There's and Skyfall is interesting because there's no Bond girl in that movie. There's only we meet we meet a character in Macau, in the Macau casino, Macau hotel or something, and she leads him to Silva, the villain, played by Javier Bardem. Well, he meets Javier Bardem. Javier Bardem does a terrorist attack against MI6, blows up the office, so that M can watch. She watches from a distance, and it's it's a pretty horrific thing to see. And the guy that Bond was having a nice, wonderful set piece in the beginning of the movie is connected to. What's weird is a new thing in Skyfall is that Moneypenny tries to shoot or tries to snipe the person that Bond is fighting on top of the train, but she hits Bond instead, and Bond falls off the train and lands and falls off the train several feet and lands in the water. He would have been dead. So one thing about these Daniel Craig movies is that there's just so much. It's kind of hard to believe that. I mean, it's entertaining to watch, but at the same time, it's kind of unbelievable with the stuff that he freaking does. Like the stuff that he does, he would have broken arms, legs. Every part of his body would be broken. If he did all that stuff that he does in these movies, and he'd be dead. Like that he got shot. He got shot twice in the beginning of Skyfall and fell several feet. He would have been dead. But this is fiction. What can I say? But we meet. So what's great about Skyfall is the villain Silva is always like 2 steps ahead of everybody else. So we have Silva. They capture Silva, and he manages to escape, and he planned to kill M when she's testifying, when she's in the deposition to Parliament or something, or I don't know if it was Parliament, but it was something like that. And the new M or the new M, Ralph Fiennes' character actually protects her. He gets shot, and he picks up the gun, starts fighting back and stuff. And so they're able to whisk M, Judi Dench's M, away, and Bond takes her to Skyfall, which is where he grew up, and basically he tells Q to leave a signal so that they can track him, so that they can come and he can take care of him. I don't know why they do that, but who knows. But the final part of the film was a great set piece. I mean, M gets shot, and it was just freaking crazy. Bond is Silva was the best villain of the Craig era films, and Skyfall to me is still the best of the Bond of the not the Bond films of the Daniel Craig Bond films, and it's definitely in my top 10. So, here's so we go into M dies. Bond, M, and his caretaker, I forget his name, played by Albert Finney. They basically managed to set booby traps, Home Alone style, to the house to that old house and stuff. And it's and they take on so many guys, and they take on a whole wave of mercenaries, kill them all, and then of course Silva himself comes in a helicopter, a big helicopter. They shoot up the house, the big house, and they shoot up Skyfall, and then they land, and then there's a second wave, including Silva himself, that comes in. So basically, Bond tries to hold them off as much as he can, while the caretaker, Albert Finney's caretaker, and M, go through a priest hole to escape the house and try to get to the chapel. And of course, things catch up. Silva catches up to M. He does a little creepy thing where he wants M to shoot herself and him, kill them both at the same time. And of course, Bond kills him, saves the day, but M is too wounded and she passes away. And that was, to me, that was crazy because they've never killed a main Bond character before. So M dies, and I didn't know what to make of it. So that was that. Then we have Spectre, and so this movie is basically, we find out Spectre was responsible for Quantum and Silva and Le Chiffre and all those guys, bad guys from the previous films. We find out that they were all connected to Blofeld. Of course, Blofeld, everybody knows Blofeld's the head of Spectre. And in this case, Christoph Waltz plays Blofeld in a very interesting way. He is not just the villain, but he's a villain that actually does get under Bond's skin. Why does he get under Bond's skin? Because he's a stepbrother, someone that Bond knew as a kid. And someone who, here's the thing. I mean, when it comes to pushing buttons, who better to push buttons than a family member, sibling, or family member? So they made Blofeld his stepbrother of Bond. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. I mean, they like to do this a lot now. Let's raise the personal stakes. Let's get the villain to get under the hero's skin, and that's what happened. That's what happened. So we meet Spectre, and we don't really, even though Christoph Waltz was second build in the movie, we didn't see him till we only saw him in three or four scenes, and that's it. Same with Rami Malek in this movie. We barely see the villains in these movies. I mean, but what can I say? So this movie, No Time to Die, takes place directly after Spectre. What happens in Spectre? Well, basically, Bond finds Mr. White. Mr. White dies in a log cabin, or in a nice little, it's not quite a cabin, but in a nice, little house, and a nice big house in the middle of the mountains, snowy mountains and stuff. Mr. White tells Bond that he has a daughter, and Mr. White, Bond offers to protect Mr. White's daughter, who is Madeline Swan, and we find out Spectre's after her too. Bond tries to protect her from Spectre. And of course, we know Dave Bautista in Spectre basically plays. Dave Bautista basically plays. I forget his name, but he basically plays an odd job like villain stuff. So, and he has a cool little death where he gets yanked out of the train by a chain and some metal barrels and stuff. So we got to see a little bit of that. Dave Bautista only says one line. He smiles a lot, very odd job like, except he's a big guy. Great fight between him and Daniel Craig. And then, of course, we find out that Spectre is trying to build a surveillance system, and the new Inspector, basically, MI6 is supposed to merge with MI5, and the head of MI5 is known as C, or at least that's what Bond calls him. Bond calls him C, and then we find out C is a villain there, that he's working with Spectre to, create the ultimate surveillance. They want to create a 1984, we can't trust anybody. We have to we have to have everybody under surveillance, crap like that. So they blow up that. We're going to discuss spoilers. I'm trying to build up to it, Green Lantern. Basically, Blofeld gets captured at the end of Spectre, and Blofeld, the Emperor and a lot of other villains, always tries to tempt the hero to do something he wouldn't do, kill him now, and the Bond's like, nope, I got better things to do. And so M arrests Blofeld, and that's the end of Spectre. So now we're going to go into No Time to Die. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, I would say click out now. So thanks for being here this long. Let's begin talking about No Time to Die. So reason why I kind of went on this long little quip is because this is I'm sure you guys all know, this is a very final movie. And going into its 60th year, I mean, this movie's been with us for several generations now, at least three. I mean, the baby boomers are older now. They're up there in age, they're past retirement already, and they were children. They were young kids. They were kids or teenagers when Dr. No came out. Dr. No is going to be is 59 years old this year. So next year will be its 60th. So this is a very final movie. Okay, so see you, Green Lantern 345. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, if you don't want to hear spoilers, go watch the movie and stuff. So, but yeah, going back to No Time to Die. So this movie begins. Basically. I think there's some time that takes place after Spectre. It takes place sometime after Spectre, I think. But the movie opens with the traditional, you see the scope, you see that famous scope of someone targeting Bond, and Bond turns 90 degrees and shoots really quick, and then the only thing was we didn't see any blood go down the sniper, which was, I thought, kind of odd, but not sure why they did that. Who knows? Maybe there's an artistic reason that I'll have to figure out sometime. But first thing, and before I even start, I want to say hello to some people that did drop in. So we have Tim's Talk came in. He said he saw the movie, he liked it, felt it was a little too long. Yeah, I can agree with that. And then we have False Stop, just swinging by for a minute or two to say hi. Well, thanks for coming by. All right, going back to Bond. So the movie opens with a mother and daughter in a very familiar house, big house in the mountains. And we find out that it's actually Madeline Swan as a kid, and her mother. Her mother's an alcoholic. She's probably in a substance abuser as well. And she is just, she's just not being a parent to young Maddie. So we find out there's an intruder, there's an interloper / intruder that comes in, and he's wearing a creepy little mask. And he comes in, tries to shoot. It comes in, manages to get in the house, and kills the mother with young Madeline hiding in her room. He comes up the stairs, and Madeline takes a pistol and starts shooting him, and she shoots him in like the chest, and he falls off the balcony. So he's like up on the second floor, kind of like Michael Myers fell off of the balcony outside, but this was inside. And like Michael Myers, the villain, who is basically Rami Malek's character, Safin, Lucifer Safin. His name is Lucifer Safin. So I'm wondering who he's named after. Ooh. So we meet Safin. We don't see his face at all. He's wearing a mask like Michael Myers. And basically, he gets up. Even though he got shot, he gets up. So I'm assuming he probably wore a bulletproof vest or something. And he goes after young Maddie, and she runs onto the ice, and the ice cracks and it breaks, and she falls into the water. So Safin, instead of murdering her, kind of takes pity on her and rescues her by shooting the ice around her, somehow not hitting her. But this is fiction. Not hitting her, and breaks the ice and pulls her out, and just kind of lets her live and stuff, and goes away. So yeah. So once again, talking spoilers. So if you're not here, there we go. So going back to, so that happens, and as she gets pulled out, we don't see what happens after that. As she gets pulled out, it cuts straight to her as an adult, and she's swimming. She gets out of the water, and she's like in a nice little tropical, she's a nice little Mediterranean like area. We find out that her and Bond are in southern Italy. And they're basically trying to, they fell in love, and this is actually the first time we see a Bond girl, Madeline, for a second movie and stuff. So these movies are really trying to, really connect and stuff. So the second time we see Madeline, and they basically they go. I don't know if they got married. I don't remember, or if they're on a honeymoon, but it seems like they're on a honeymoon. And they basically go up and they're like, they talk about, like burying the past and stuff, because people in that southern Italy, it's a very beautiful, very, mountainous plateau, like, like houses along a mountain plateau and something. It's a very beautiful shot that when they introduce that little city and stuff. So so they go there, they talk, and then, and they ask each other, they're in bed and they ask each other like, what, like, they try to talk about things that they want to bury. And of course, Madeline asks Bond about Vesper from Casino Royale. And he basically, I think he talks about her and stuff. And then she says that she'll talk about her secret, which is what happened to her mother and how she got rescued by Safin and stuff. So basically, in this part of the movie, basically in the southern, I'm guessing maybe, well, they didn't go there for honeymoon, but they went there. They went there so that Bond could be, like, forgive himself and forgive Vesper, because Vesper is buried there in a nice little mausoleum in southern Italy for some reason, even though she's British. But hey, this is fiction. Once again, this is fiction. So so Bond goes and visits Vesper's grave, mausoleum, and he's there. He gets led there, and then he sees a card with the same symbol that's on all the Spectre rings, that little octopus symbol, and all of a sudden, boom, explosion. It explodes right in front of him. He doesn't get hurt, but he can't hear. So, because he can't hear, the audience can't hear. So we're all hearing the ringing and everything. And then he's like looking, he's seeing if there's anyone around. There's nobody around. And then when he walks up then he goes up to a bridge, and then Spectre, you find out there's a bunch of Spectre assassins that were waiting for him there in case, the bomb failed, and the bomb did fail. And here you see a lot of the, and here's the very first action set piece with Bond in this moment. We see this in the first trailer. So he basically jumps off the bridge, holds a rope, swings down, lands, and of course, the way he lands, you'd think he would break a bone, but he doesn't. So, so he does that. He basically steals a motorcycle. There's the head guy that's hunting Bond. I call him Glass Eye because he's a mean looking guy with a big glass eye and stuff. And and Bond just basically punches him and hits him and pushes it and knocks his head into a rock and stuff. Somehow the guy survives, but oh well. And he steals the motorcycle. He goes to he gets back to the house. He gets back to the house, and they say, oh, Bond, or they say, oh shit, that Glass Eye dude says, oh, Madeline is a daughter of Spectre and blah blah blah, trying to make him believe that she betrayed him. The problem is that he actually believes them, and he believes that Madeline betrays him. So he grabs her. He gets into a car, and his car is basically, once again, we see the Aston Martin. Remember that Aston Martin from Goldfinger? I mean, I swear, Daniel Craig has driven the Aston Martin more than Sean Connery has. So we see the Aston Martin again. They're being chased in this beautiful southern Italy, mountainous town, city thing, village. Well, not a village, but it's beautiful. And they get surrounded by Spectre. They get surrounded by all the Spectre assassins and motorcycles and cars. They're coming out. They're shooting. The glass is super bulletproof, and him and Madeline are in the car, and Madeline's begging him to do something, and Bond's just sitting there, resigned to his fate. He's just sitting there, resigned to his fate, and then something snaps him out of it, and he just turns on the guns, and he goes into a goes completely 360 with the car, shooting everybody, and then manages to escape. And they leave, and Bond throws her on a train, and he says, "You'll never see me again. I don't trust you. I can never trust you again. You're never going to see me again." And before all that happens, she literally tells him, like, she had something. She literally says, "I have something to tell you," and she never tells him. So he throws her on the train, and then we begin the traditional, Bond opening, credits and stuff. Usually very artistic. This was a Billie Eilish song. I don't know. I've never heard her music before, but hearing this song, I mean, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it or anything. I just found it, like most of the recent Bond songs, immemorable, in my opinion. I mean, this is my opinion. Maybe you guys out there love like that type of music more. I'm not a fan. I mean, I like stuff that's memorable. The early Bond films, your From Russia with Loves, your Thunderballs, your Doctor Knows, your Living Like Dies, your Spy Who Loves Me. Heck, even Octopussy. All the songs from Dr. No to Octopussy were great. Then after that, just started, in my opinion, going downhill in terms of, having Bond themes that are memorable. Like, you have the Goldfinger and the Man with the Golden Gun songs, and they build up the villain. Like the songs themselves help build up the villain besides, the rest of the movie. So I love that stuff. Now it's just all, I don't know what it is now, but it's very typical now. But to me, as much as I might find it immemorable, it belongs with the rest of the other. It fits right in with the other Daniel Craig era Bond openings and stuff. So we see that, and then of course, there's a big 5-year gap, and we go to an MI6 laboratory. There's this Russian scientist guy who was recruited by M, called Dr. Obruchev and stuff, and he basically developed this project called Project Heracles, which is another name for Hercules. And this is basically, he basically built a bioweapon of, basically a bunch of nanomachines that act like a virus and attack someone's particular DNA. Does this sound familiar? Well, it should, because this is basically Fox dye from Metal Gear Solid. Yes, they're using Fox dye in a Bond movie. Here's a funny thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Metal Gear Solid. It's game series on PlayStation. Main character Solid Snake, and he basically goes on secret missions. It's a stealth-based game. Every time a soldier or mercenary or some lackey sees you, you hear a little shriek, and you see an exclamation point pop up on top of their head and stuff. And that little shriek or that sound that you hear they play it. It's like a meme now, so it's always around. So Metal Gear Solid is actually connected to the Bond movies. I mean, obviously, Solid Snake is based off of Snake Plissken from Escape from New York, the John Carpenter film, and Snake Plissken has, he acts like, he goes goes on missions and rescues people. Helps people escape. Hence his name. The name of his movies are Escape from Something. Well, I mean, Snake Plissken was basically, he was conceived because Carpenter was a big fan of westerns. He was basically conceived of Kurt Russell was basically acting like Clint Eastwood, and as like Man with No Name, Clint Eastwood, and James Bond. So going back to Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid is directly connected to James Bond, because in the third game, Metal Gear Solid 3, you play as Naked Snake, and in 1964 during the height of the Cold War, shortly after the Cuban Missile Crisis. And Snake goes on a mission, kind of like Bond, and he has support. This is support. The head of his support is a guy named Zero. And the guy named Zero, when you have conversations with him, they talk about, because it's 1964, What came out in 1964? That's right, Goldfinger. So they talk about Goldfinger and they talk about James Bond in the game. So, and the opening of Metal Gear Solid 3 is based on a Bond opening, very similar type of music, very memorable. And I think Kojima himself was a big fan of the early Bonds with Sean Connery. So that's hence they included that. So it's funny that now in these movies, especially years later, James Bond is referencing. Now it might not be directly referencing. Maybe they've used this idea that the I forget what kind of virus it is, where it attaches to DNA with nanomachines. But I can only think of Fox Die from Metal Gear Solid. So they used they more movies are referencing games. Maybe it's because a lot of the writers now are people in my generation, millennials, and we basically, we reference video games because a lot of us grew up with video games and stuff. So who knows? Who knows why that is? But going back to the movie, nanomachines are the main threat in this movie. So Spectre agents, led by Mr. Glass Eye guy, the guy that Bond fights briefly, and then they get captured by him. Well, he comes back and he kidnaps this. They kidnap this Obruchev guy and they kill all the other scientists. And Bond knows about this. He is retired. We find out that Bond has been retired in Jamaica for a long time. He lives in a nice little estate. And I'll be honest, this estate looks just like Ian Fleming's GoldenEye estate. So before GoldenEye was a movie, GoldenEye was the name of Ian Fleming. Ian Fleming is the author of the Bond novels. Just a reminder if you don't know. And basically, Bond is basically living in GoldenEye. I mean, it doesn't exactly look like GoldenEye, but they basically wanted to honor Ian Fleming, and the GoldenEye is where majority of the Bond novels were written, because that's where he lived. He lived in Jamaica. And the name of his estate was called the GoldenEye. So he goes and he is contacted by Felix. So we see Felix Leiter again for the first time since Quantum of Solace. So we see him and we meet. Felix Leiter has a partner. This guy's name is Logan Ash. He is a very awkward guy. Says he's a big fan of Bond. Smiles, just acts awkward, and Bond kind of looks at him, doesn't know what to say, kind of ignores him at the same time. Tells Leiter he doesn't trust him because he smiles too much. And let's just say that kind of plays out later. So we, at the same time, and they go to a bar. They're talking about them about a mission and stuff. And Bond says he'll get back to them, about this, Project Heracles, the same thing. So he basically leaves, and we find out that Bond himself is being tracked by the new 007, and her name is Nomi, and she's, the one that's played by, you guessed it, Lashana Lynch. And to talk about Lashana Lynch, now she was brought up quite a bit in the marketing, and, everybody, anytime, I'm sure you guys seen a lot of videos of people talking about, the marketing, the trailers and everything. Well, I'll be honest, she started off kind of, insufferable, but she grows. She grows throughout the film. She's not that character. She's not that type of character. So if you've listened to other people's reviews, they say the exact same thing. I actually, at the end, I actually liked her character. I did not. She was not a bad character. It just started off as your typical, she was trying to get under Bond's skin from the moment she met him. She's like, she said all those things like, I'm going to put a bullet in your leg and stuff. And, the world has moved on and stuff. That was all in the very beginning of the movie. She does that basically just to get under his skin. And that was, so she starts off as mean, but she gets better. Like their relationship builds at the end to the point where she's not like that. Like before even the middle of the movie, she gets, they work together and stuff. So the first half of the movie, basically, those two are kind of acting like rivals and stuff. They're like, Bond is working with the CIA, and she's there obviously on behalf of MI6 interests, and their interests kind of collide because both want to extract this Oberchev guy, this scientist, because they're worried that this, bioweapon is going to get out to, more terrorists and stuff. Well, so we find out Bond decides to go and takes the CIA on their offer, and he goes to Cuba. He goes to Cuba, and he meets a CIA agent, and her name is Paloma. She's a young woman, very attractive, wearing a dress. She's very nervous about the whole thing. She says she only got 3 weeks of training, and so they make a joke about her, like they're preparing for the mission and stuff, and she starts like taking off her clothes and stuff, and Bond thinks she's about to like take off her clothes and stuff. He's like, shouldn't we get to know each other first? And she's like, no, that's no, I sorry, I didn't mean to make you think that way. And she takes out a suit, like a suit bag, and gives him his suit to wear, and it's basically his typical 007 black suit with the bow tie, traditional Bond look. So they dress up, and we find out that he met her there to go to a party where all the Spectre agents are there, all the heads of Spectre are there. Excuse me, and they're all there to celebrate Blofeld's birthday. So somehow Blofeld even though Blofeld was captured and taken into custody at the end of Spectre, the last movie, you can somehow hear his voice. So he's somehow at this birthday party. And then we find out that a couple of his agents, servants, or whatever you call them, they're basically both carrying very carefully a bionic eye on a pillow and stuff. And that's basically, Blofeld, basically seeing the party and hearing the party. So somehow MI6 failed to find any equipment, any, devices on Blofeld. So he was able to still pull strings from his prison. I think the prison's called Belmarsh or something. So yeah, it's called Belmarsh. I have the Wikipedia up to help me remember names and stuff, but they go in and Bond just walks into the middle of the room for some reason. And Bond walks in the middle of the room, and we find out earlier in the movie that this Dr. Oberchev guy is actually working for this guy Safin, who we meet in the beginning of the movie, Rami Malek's character. So Oberchev and even what's his name, Mr. Glass Eye dude, I forget his name. I think Bond calls him Cyclops or something. They both basically they changed the nature of the virus from what Spectre intended. So Spectre wanted to kill Bond and all of its enemies, and of course Blofeld thinking they Bond's in the middle of the room, he's completely surrounded. They drop the virus on him, and they think, the virus is going to kill him, but everyone, Spectre's protected. Well, it's the opposite. So Bond got the virus. Bond has the virus, but it doesn't harm him, and it kills everyone in Spectre. So you see people, get like open sores and canker sores on their faces, and then they all die. And in the case of the original Foxeye basically simulated heart attacks. In this case, it just kills them, eats them or something. It's pretty horrific. They wanted to make it look horrific as opposed to a heart attack. So they go in, so all the Spectre agents are dead, and then Bond and what's her name, Paloma, they basically go in, they kick butt. She's really kicking butt. She's really effective. She's really effective with guns. She's really good at hand-to-hand combat. And she's just like, she's taking out 3 guys while Bond's like struggling to take out 1 and 2 guys. And he's doing his typical thing where he just basically throws himself off a balcony, and everybody lands on the bar. And once again, he would have broken legs, arms, or whatever, but he's fine. He's fine for the most part. So he gets up there trying to get, they capture Oberchev, and they're trying to take him back. Oberchev's trying to escape himself, and they're trying to take him back. And then what's funny is while they're being, occupied with, other Spectre, mercenaries trying to shoot them. uh, Lashana Lynch basically comes in. Nomi comes in and takes Oberchev herself for MI6's purposes, because MI6, M basically authorized this project, this bioweapon project, and it was, I mean, the purpose is, to once again escape from the conventions of war, make it cleaner, kind of like, the war with computers in that Star Trek episode, The Taste of Armageddon. But only this time, instead of it would be, it's more painful, and the let's just say it's more targeted. There's less collateral. They're doing this for getting less collateral damage and stuff. So that's the purpose of that was the purpose of this weapon and stuff. And we just basically, they go in. Bond and Bond and Paloma basically managed to escape from the authorities and Spectre agents at the same time. And Nomi, they managed to outwit Nomi, and they lose her and stuff. And that's the last we see of Paloma. Like she leaves Bond. She's like, "Oh, we should do this again sometime." Well, they won't do it again if you know what happens. But we don't see her at all again in the film. And she was a pretty cool character. I actually liked her a lot too. So like it was kind of unbelievable, but at the same time, she was very entertaining, and she was a likable character. That's what I like. I like to see likable characters in movies and shows and stuff, because if you have likable characters, you become invested. And if you become invested, you basically become a fan of it. You care about the story, and you'll come back and watch it some more and stuff. So, but yeah, this really cool segment. They take on a lot of enemies. Spectre is practically all but dead except for Blofeld, and maybe Spectre's all but dead. And then of course Bond takes the scientist to the boat, where he meets back up with Felix and his partner. And of course, we find out that the partner is actually a double agent, and he works for Safin. So Safin basically gets into a fight with Bond, and manages to throw Bond into the lower parts of the ship that they're on. Felix gets shot during the fight. He gets shot in the stomach, and they lock the partner and the scientist escape. The scientist basically helps the partner, shoot Felix and knock Bond down into the lower parts of the ship, and they get locked in. And then of course they blow up the ship, and the ship starts to sink. So not only does Felix basically dies in Bond's arms and everything behind and underneath the ship, as the ship is being submerged in the water. So not only does Felix Leiter die for the first time, but he also, his body is unrecoverable. He basically sinks to a watery grave alone and stuff. And it was a hard thing to see. I mean, Felix like I said, Felix has been with Bond since Dr. No, since the very beginning. And there were times where Felix came close to death, like in License to Kill. But Felix never really died in any of the movies and stuff. So this was kind of a tough one. So, yeah. So Bond manages to escape. He somehow gets out. I forget how exactly, but he gets out of the boat, swims back up. Luckily, there's a raft, a raft that can be blown up. So he somehow blows up the raft and cuts, and he's already on the raft and stuff. And he gets rescued by a ship. So so that's basically the first half of the movie. Ends with Felix Leiter getting killed. So in this movie, nobody's safe. So Bond is back. He's dressed up, and he's back in London for the first time in this movie. They play the traditional Bond theme from Dr. No, and he basically meets Moneypenny and Q and tries to arrange a meeting with Blofeld to find out who is responsible for. He's trying to find out who is responsible and who has the virus and stuff. like who the partner who Leiter's Felix Leiter's partner works for and stuff. And basically, we find out that Blofeld only seen one person. That person just happens to be, well, Madeline. We see Madeline for the first time. Once again, this is a 5-year time gap. So it's been 5 years since he's seen her, and it's a very awkward meeting. He tries to shake her hand, and she just looks down and refuses. And I don't blame her. I mean, he left her. He didn't hear her side of the story. He didn't believe her. He didn't trust her. So, in my opinion, but but I think I think Bond deserved that kind of cold response from her. And before that, however, we find out that she actually meets Safin, Rami Malek. So this is the first time we see him without the mask on. So this is second half of the movie, and we find out that he basically threatens to kill people that she's close to if she does not try to touch Blofeld with the. He basically gives her a virus. He gives her the virus in like perfume, and she says you have to use the perfume or something to. She puts the nanobots in the perfume, and he wants her to kill Blofeld. Well, she ultimately chickens out. She would not do it. So when she's in the thing, she's like, "Get me out of here! Get me out of here!" And I mean, the one scene with Blofeld is basically, besides hearing his voice at the dinner party and stuff, Bond has a final meeting with Blofeld, and Blofeld is basically getting under his skin. Bond is trying to ask him, who else would have this, and he basically says, "Oh, Madeline would know," And then, of course, Bond, still has remember earlier in the film when they dropped the virus on him in that Spectre party. Well, in this case, he basically doesn't realize it, but he still has the virus on him, and he touches Blofeld by trying to choke him by telling him to die, and then he just lets him go. And then they turn around, and then all of a sudden, Blofeld's dead. Killed him. It was probably not the death I would have preferred for Blofeld, but hey, I guess that's just how they decided to do it. So Blofeld wasn't the main villain, obviously. So he's dead, and so it was pretty much Spectre. Spectre dies with him. So, so I see we have Leia Rose is in the chat. So what's up? Pacific 414 came by. Coffee on Korban is here. Darius Munchausen's here. And, of course, my friend in real life, Brian Anderson. So, Brian Anderson, if you don't want to hear spoilers, if you plan on seeing the movie, you don't want to hear spoilers, I would not. I'd watch maybe the first half an hour, and then, first half an hour, and I don't know. You must, if you don't plan on, if you're okay with spoilers, I mean, keep watching. So, and he says, if you think Quantum was the worst Craig movie, you must have never seen Cowboys vs. Aliens. No, it's the worst Craig Bond movie, not the worst. I saw Cowboys vs. Aliens. It was funny. It was a funny movie. Was it a great movie? No, but it was funny. Just seeing Harrison Ford, him and Harrison Ford together was hilarious. But okay, going back to this. So Blofeld is dead. So basically, Bond, because Blofeld literally tells him that it was him that Blofeld tells Bond that Madeline was not the one that tried to kill him in southern Italy. It was actually him. He just wanted to ruin Bond, be the source of all of his unhappiness, like the evil villain that he is, the evil stepbrother villain that he is, So, yeah, that type of thing. So, but yeah, so Bond decides, because of what Blofeld tells him before he dies, that he decides to go and track, Madeline back down. And so, I didn't realize it, but yeah, the house Mr. White stays in, that's in Norway. So, Anyone? I mean, sure. Yeah. So so in this part of the movie, it's like nice and summer. It's summer in Norway, so there's no snow up in the mountains. So they go back to that They go back to that home, and Bond is able to make amends with Madeline. And then we find out, we find out the thing that Madeline wanted to tell him before he threw her on that train in the beginning of the movie. We find out that James Bond is a dad. James Bond is a father, and he has a 5-year-old daughter. So she was born probably shortly after Bond threw Madeline on the train. So they have a 5-year-old daughter. Her name is Matilda. And well, actually, that's not true. We find out that she has a daughter, but she tells Bond that the daughter is actually not his initially. So he basically tries to be sweet in front of the 5-year-old and stuff. And Madeline basically tells Bond the truth about Safin and how like what happened to Safin. Like Safin went after Mr. White because and killed tried to kill Mr. White's family because Mr. White murdered his family. So Safin's family was murdered and he was disfigured. And if you see Rami Malek's facial features in the movie, he wears a mask for a reason. He's got a lot of he looks like a burn victim and stuff or something. I forget what happened. I think Safin was a young boy when his family was murdered by he was murdered by Mr. White, but on Blofeld's order. So Spectre. So the villain of this movie is not connected to Spectre whatsoever. He's trying to destroy Spectre ultimately. So so basically so he kills the mother and he takes pity on young Madeline, and because he kind of saw a little bit of himself and her and what he experienced himself. So that's why he spared her. And well, shortly after they try to leave the house and stuff, and Safin manages to catch up to Bond, and there's another little set piece in the woods that kind of is interesting. That's pretty cool. Basically Safin's in a helicopter, and that one dude from the CIA's in one of the vehicles chasing Bond, and of course Bond with a 5-year-old in the back, and Madeline in the front. Just it's basically Bond with his family taking out bad guys at the same time. So it's an interesting new thing to see with Bond. So because Bond's never been a father, Bond's never had a kid in the car before, and with the Bond girl, so it's pretty interesting to see. But they run into the woods. They hide in like a cabin. Bond manages to kill, or basically the CIA dude that betrayed them and killed Felix Leiter earlier. Basically gets into a position where he tries to hit Bond with the vehicle, and the vehicle flips because it hits a fallen tree, and it flips. And he's the agent is the CIA guy is wounded, and he's laying on the ground, and the car's hanging from like a hill or hanging from a tree, and he's like, "Help me!" He's like, "Help me! We can do this." And he's like, and Bond's like, "No, I'm not going to help you. There was a better man than you, and his name was Felix Leiter." And he basically pushes the car, and it crushes the guy, killing him. So you got a nice little catharsis from that. It's never cool to kill anybody, but this guy was a piece of work. So he wasn't in the movie that much either. You just see him. He's in the movie in the beginning. Bond doesn't trust him, and we see him again, and he becomes. Find out he's a double agent, and then we see him again briefly trying to kill Bond, and he dies. That's it. So yeah, something about the villains in this movie. There's not much. We don't see much villains being villains like in previous Bond movies, and the same goes for Safin. So Safin was not Safin was there, but he wasn't much of a threat compared um, to obviously the Silva, who was the best of the villains in the Bond in the Daniel Craig thing, in the Daniel Craig movies, and heck, even I think Blofeld was a better villain too. Even though we barely see Blofeld, we barely see Christoph Waltz as Blofeld in Spectre. We only see him in a couple of scenes, 2 or 3 scenes. That's it. But Blofeld was, in my opinion, was better, kind of. Well, maybe not better, but about the same. And Lashif and Silva were better villains than Safin, Rami Malek. So basically, Rami Malek, Bond is away. The Madeline and Matilda are hiding in the cabin, and Rami Malek himself comes in and manages to capture both of them, and they get taken away. So they get taken away to his compound. Rami Malek's character has an evil island that looks he's basically on an evil island that is in between Russia and Japan. And we find out that they're really harvesting the virus, like they're really mass producing it to kill as many people as possible. And so basically the island is basically a World War II base, and there's the Rami Malek's base of operations is basically a missile, I think a missile silo or something, like that. So basically they locate him. So James Bond and Nomi work together, and they work together pretty well. Nomi has the beginning of the movie, working up the first half of the movie. Nomi tries to get under Bond's skin by saying, I'm 007, I'm 007, blah, 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 everything that you hear in the trailer. And she does not. He always has a quip, he always has a comeback for her. And, but he's never he's never rude. He's just he always has a little quip to say. He doesn't let it bother him and stuff. But she comes to respect him, and they work together. And she says, she literally tells I request that you reinstate James Bond as 007. So I thought that was a wonderful moment. So I know people don't like Lashana Lynch, but her character in the second half of the movie was good, in my opinion. I liked her character ultimately. She grew throughout the movie. She started off as unlikable. She became likable in the end. So, but yeah, they both work together to basically infiltrate the base, and the base looks very much like Dr. No's hideout on Crab Key and Dr. No. So kind of, another typical, it ends where it begins type of thing. So, they're there, and they recapture the scientist, and the scientist is kind of like a comic relief. He's basically a comic relief type of character, where he's he's basically saying, "Oh, I'm going to destroy everything," and they're both, Bond and Nomi are basically just talking. They're like, "What?" She's like, Lashana Lynch is like, "What? I just want him to stop." And then Bond literally tells her, "Well, beat him up, and get him to stop." So she beats him up and knocks him on the ground, and he stops talking. So, but yeah, that was a nice little humorous moment. And so they basically split up. Bond's trying to locate Matilda and Madeline. And before they get on the island, Safin takes little Matilda, carries her around, and starts talking to her like a creepy, like a typical creepy villain does. Trying to tell her things about life, even though she's a 5-year-old that doesn't really quite 4-year-old, 5-year-old that doesn't quite understand, the world and stuff. Really cute, by the way. Really cute little girl. Speaks French and stuff, but Yeah, so the daughter, so mother and daughter are separated. So the mother's in the cell, and she is being interrogated, or she's being interrogated or coerced to drink something by Mister Glass Eye Dude, Cyclops, or whatever you call him, mean looking dude, And she manages to throw the liquid in his face, and escape. She manages to escape and locks him in the cell that she was in. So she saves herself, which is pretty common in movies now. Women saving themselves, I guess. It is what it is. She escapes, and then Bond confronts Rami Malek. Rami Malek threatens little Matilda, and of course Bond literally kneels and says, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Even though he he dropped his automatic, and he dropped his sidearm, but he had a secret third gun in his pouch, and he manages to shoot everybody. Rami Malek escapes with the little girl, and Rami Malek is just kind of he's not really a very menacing villain. He's just kind of there. He's a little crazy. He's very nihilistic. He just wants things to die and stuff. He wants the world to be in a forever state of misery, warfare, like a battlefield, nonstop battlefield. Bond literally says to him, you and I, we didn't get a chance, but you're taking away that chance from everybody else. You're making you're taking away chance for a normal life and stuff. He's like, you're taking that away from everybody, and I have to stop you for that. So going back, the Rami Malek escapes with little Matilda under, he has a little thing that he has a little elevator that was able to go on. He was able to go under the floor before Bond could shoot him. And the little girl just doesn't want to be with Rami Malek. And he's like, you don't want to be here? Well, you can go then. He just puts her down and lets her go. So the little girl just, runs the opposite way. And they find her. She hides under a table, and they find her. And Bond reunites with Madeline, and he helps them both escape. They get on the boat they both get to the boat. Lashana Lynch, in the meantime, basically kills the scientist. He's like, we're gonna kill you all, and she just kicks him. She does a 300. She basically kicks him into the water that they're using to harvest the virus. I don't fully understand it, but there's water, and they're basically shoveling. They're like you have people in suits, kind of like in Dr. No, and they're like they're basically moving the water and stuff that's in there, and the water is supposed to be the virus or something. She kicks him off of a catwalk, and he lands into the water, and he basically gets all the symptoms and just dies horrifically. The scientist guy, or Obruchev, or the goofy one. And yeah, he was annoying. I think he lasted a little too long. And so Bond contacts M and MI6 and basically says, we need to destroy this place. So they send so there's a ship on standby to shoot missiles at the base to destroy it. And the thing is, they can't destroy the base until he opens up the base. So he has to make his way to the main control room, which is on the top floor, and open up the basically the shutters of the base, so that when the missiles hit, it will destroy the base. Because if it doesn't, the missiles will simply bounce off, and there will be no damage. Kind of like the Death Star shield in Return of the Jedi. So, in order for Bond to get there, he has to go through several armed mercenaries and stuff. So he goes through a nice 5 to 10 minute long action sequence where he's basically trying to get up the stairs, and he's killing people. He's killing mercenaries left and right. They're throwing grenades at him. He's throwing the grenades back at him, and it just made me think of it made me think Bond was almost freaking Solid Snake. It made me think of a Metal Gear Solid cutscene. but yeah, he manages to go through all those guys. He fights he has one last fight with the guy with the glass eye, and he basically shorts his eye and the eye in his brain, and it basically literally fries his brain. And he has a Sean Connery like quiff, like saying I forget what he said, like his head his head did something. His head didn't explode. His head's fried or something. It was some quip. It was a funny little quip that got people giggling. So he gets up there. He opens he opens up the shutters. He tries to make his way down, but he sees that those same shutters are closing again. So he gets back to that little main area. He makes it to that main little garden that Rami Malek has, that poison garden. And Rami Malek shoots him several times. Lands in the water. And as Rami Malek shoots him, he basically, Rami Malek basically sprays him with another set of the virus. The only difference is this time, this virus will make him a walking weapon that will kill anybody he comes into contact with. So, Bond realizing this, basically, he just shoots. He shoots Rami Malek, kills him, just shoots him dead. A very, not very big fight, but Rami Malek's villain was never really a very strong villain to begin with. So he kills Rami Malek, and he once again makes his way up to the same control room, reopens the shutters, and tells M to fire the missiles. So the M fires the missiles, and as the missiles are coming, he has one final conversation with Madeline. And Madeline tells him that little Matilda is, in fact, his child and stuff. And they have a final scene where he says he loves her. And then Bond basically accepts his fate, and he gets, blown up with the rest of the base. And Bond dies. Bond dies at the end. So, and it was a funny feeling when I saw that. I mean, I knew it happened. And let's just say it just kind of felt like, this character Bond has been with me since I was a kid, since I was a teenager, and it just feels like, seeing this character die. I mean, even though he was technically you'd think the Craig films he was rebooted. Well, he I mean, I still kind of felt like he was the same character throughout the series and stuff. And seeing him die was just like, it was tough. It was like seeing Han Solo die. But unlike Han Solo, I didn't get angry that Bond died. Bond died on his own terms. He died, trying to destroy a very evil type of weapon that could, in the wrong hands, and any hands whatsoever, would lead to nothing but disaster. So he basically gave his life for that. So, and he died on his feet. He died as a hero and stuff. I can't say the same about Luke Skywalker. I mean, Luke helped a few people escape and then trolled his nephew, and then he just dies for barely doing anything, in my opinion. And then Han just gets murdered and stuff. So, but Han, I just got angry about that. So, did they need to kill Bond off? I'm kind of split on that. I get why they did it, but at the same time, I'm not sure how they can move on with the Bond series. I mean, he dies. The M, Moneypenny, M's, I forget M's chief of staff. I forget his name. What's his name? I keep forgetting his name. Tanner, and Nomi, and of course Q. They're all there. They're all in a room, and they drink in Bond's honor. So I guess they're all that's left of MI6. And they drink in Bond's honor. They basically have a drink in Bond's honor. They pour one for Bond, even though he's absent. They leave the glass there, and they read a passage. And it kind of almost felt like, have, when Kirk and had Sulu, Uhura, and Chekhov as apartment in Star Trek 3, to honor Spock, kind of made me feel like that. Kind of felt a little bit like that. Read a passage saying that, the purpose of man is to live, not to exist, but to live and stuff. And I forget who wrote that, but it was a wonderful little segment. And the movie kind of ends. We see Madeline driving with little Matilda, and Madeline wants to tell Matilda the story of James Bond, and that's how the movie ends. And so we see the credits, and then at the very end of the credits, the very last thing we see is that it says James Bond will return. And some people were walking out of the theater, and as that came up on the screen, I literally said, "How?" And the people that walked, the one guy that walked past me that was walking down the stairs, he says, like, "Yeah, I agree. How?" So I mean, there was very few of us. There was like maybe 15 of us in the theater. I mean, I went for a 4:30 showing, so I literally went right after work and stuff. So that's kind of, yeah. So that I went, there was a few people there, and to be honest, the movie is not the worst. Once again, this movie was not the worst. It's not the best. The best still goes to Skyfall. The worst still goes to Quantum of Solace. I would say this movie's roughly maybe in the middle. I think this is tied with Spectre. So, best movie is, in my opinion, is Skyfall, of the Daniel Craig movies. Skyfall is the best movie by far. Great cinematography, great direction by Sam Mendes. It was best written. It was very engaging from start to finish. It's Marty's favorite movie too, so it's his favorite. I think it's his favorite movie of all time, which is fine. I mean, it's a very good movie. Yeah, I mean, that's my number one. The number two is Casino Royale. Casino Royale starts really well. Just great character moments. Him and Vesper. Lashif was a good villain. Wasn't the best villain, but he was a decent villain. And it was basically a reboot and stuff. So, I mean, they killed this Bond. What are they going to do? So Casino Royale is number two, and then Spectre and this movie are tied for number three. And then Quantum of Solace is in a distant number five. So this movie is not bad. I would definitely recommend to go see it if you care. I mean, if you're listening to my thing and you haven't seen it, that means you don't care about the spoilers. But it was still a fun movie to watch. It was a fun movie to watch. It wasn't that thing that rhymes with broke. It wasn't like that at all. I felt like, that everything was earned in the movie. They tried to wrap it up as best as they could. And one nod that they really hit home on several times is they said this twice in the movie. They really reference Honor Majesty's Secret Service quite a bit in this movie. So twice in the movie, once in the beginning and once at the end, or right before the end, Bond says we have all the time in the world, which is what George Lazenby's Bond says to his deceased wife. Like in the movie, she dies at the very end of the movie. They get married. He marries the Bond girl in that movie in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And then as they're going on their honeymoon, he stops, does something, and they Blofeld and played by Telly Savalas and his henchwoman Irma Bunt. Basically, they do a drive-by shooting and they miss Bond, but they hit her and they kill her. They kill her at the end, and he holds her and he's mourning her and he says, "We have all the time in the world." And so we hear the Louis Armstrong song, "We Have All the Time in the World," at the end of the movie. That's what they play during the end credits. And of course, another connection to Honor Majesty's Secret Service is that they play the beginning thing, the beginning of the movie. Dun, 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 that one. They play that during Bond's meeting with M, talking about the M basically revealing the nature of this virus and stuff before he goes and sees Blofeld. So there's quite a few references to Honor Majesty Secret Service. So I mean, if you haven't seen those older movies, Honor Majesty Secret Service is basically the middle movie of the Blofeld trilogy, then I call it, and it's basically like Empire Strikes Back. It ends with it ends with some tragedy, and kind of on a cliffhanger too. So it's kind of like that. So but it was a but yeah, I mean those movies were. I mean, I loved the Bond movies. It was my other favorite thing in high school, other than Star Trek, that I really liked. This was before I even got into, I mean, in Nintendo, of course. I was big into Nintendo, Star Trek, and James Bond. High school, I kind of took a break from Nintendo stuff until I didn't play a whole lot of GameCube. I was like, it's high school. I wasn't home that much, so. But I did really get into Bond. I really liked watching all the movies, and I enjoyed playing GoldenEye. And it was really cool. I thought, I love Pierce Brosnan as Bond. Heck, here's an idea. James Bond will return. Bring back the original James Bond. The one that never died. The one that started his story in Doctor No, and worked his way up all the way up to Die Another Day. Bring that Bond back. Let's find out what happens to Bond after Die Another Day. Now, not a lot of people like Die Another Day. Came out when I was a senior in high school. Came out around the same time as Star Trek Nemesis. You know what? And I liked Die Another Day. It was ridiculous. It was pretty cool. I liked the gadgets and all the stuff, and Pierce Brosnan being Bond, and you had all those colorful villains. You had it was North Korean villains and stuff. It was a really cool. It was a cool movie. I really still liked that. I like that. I mean, World Is Not Enough was another good movie. Tomorrow Never Dies was pretty decent. Of course, the best of them was GoldenEye. But yeah, bring back Brosnan, even though he's like, how old is he now? 70? So he's pushing 70. Bring him back, or bring back that Bond. Have someone else be that Bond. Go back to not being a story driven, strict continuity driven Bond. Go back to the old Bond. Have another Bond. Continue. Taking on villains and wacky. Go bring back the wacky equipment. Let's get rid of this grounded stuff. People like the grounded. Craig, I want to go back to suave James Bond. Suave James Bond has all these cool gadgets and cool stuff. No more member berries. I mean, we've seen the Aston Martin. We've seen the Aston Martin so many times with Daniel Craig. Let's not do that again. I mean, let's start moving forward and stuff. Or if you can't move forward, then just let it end. Just let it end. I mean, nothing lasts forever. Even movie series and stuff. I mean, who's running EMI right now? Who's running EMI? Barbara Broccoli, who is Albert Broccoli's daughter. Let's see, Eon Productions. Let's see who is running it. All right, who is currently running it? So it was founded by Albert Broccoli and Harry Saltzman. Okay, so Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli. So I'm guessing Michael G. Wilson's her husband. I think that's her husband. He's getting up there in age too. He's 80 something. He's 80 years old. He's almost 80 years old. He's 79. Barbara Broccoli is in her 60s, I believe. So, oh no, he's her half brother. Okay. But they're both getting up there in age. Who's going to take over after they do? Their kids? If they have kids, Probably. So far, it's been a family affair. So, but yeah, I mean, but the same company has been bringing Bond movies ever since 1962. So, I mean, there's a lot of history with this. So many people have grown up with this, from baby boomers to kids now, Zoomers and everything. So, yeah, I mean, it's just something that we've all experienced, and something we can all kind of relate to. And it's just seeing Bond, pass away and stuff is kind of tough. Kind of makes you feel. Kind of makes you realize makes you feel that passage of time. We're all getting older, and things that were big are I mean, characters that we love are starting to, die and stuff, and we had to deal with that with Star Wars and stuff. And I mean, Kirk died years ago in Generations, and that was a horrible way to do it. But yeah, even Kirk died back in Kirk died in Generations. So it's a tough thing. I mean, I kind of the theater was quiet when I left. I was quiet too. I I feel still a little kind of uneasy now, but I'm glad I saw this movie. It was a good movie. I would definitely recommend seeing it. I mean, it was a breath of fresh air compared to other movies. It was the first movie I've seen in a year. Well, it's actually the first movie I enjoyed that I saw in almost. It's going to be a year and a half. Yeah, about a year and a half. Last movie I saw that I really enjoyed was Sonic. That was March of 2020, I believe. So that was a very enjoyable movie. But in between that time, last year, around this time actually, September, August, I saw Tenet, and I did not enjoy Tenet. So, Coffee on Corbin, if you're still in the chat, I apologize. And I already told you in another stream that I didn't care for Tenet. I just didn't know what was going on. Was it a great looking? Was it a well made movie? Sure. I was confused and I kind of lost interest halfway through the movie. I couldn't hear what they were saying. I didn't know what was going on. It was just all very baffling to me. Um, so it's the one Christopher Nolan movie I don't own on Blu-ray because of that. So now it would probably work better because if I buy it on Blu-ray, I could watch it and have read the subtitles because I always put when I watch Blu-rays, I always put the subtitles on because I want to know what's going on because I have attention deficit disorder and sometimes I don't pick up on things right away. So if I have it right in front of me and I read it, I'll be able to follow the story more closely and stuff. So, but yeah, it was just mind blowing just seeing Bond die in a movie. It's I don't I mean do I agree with the decision? Honestly, I don't think they should have did that. I mean, it did carry some weight and stuff, but if Bond's just going to return, then what was the point of doing that? Like, just change the actor and just keep moving forward with it. But because these movies were so strict in continuity, they characters, a lot of the same characters came back for the movies compared to the original or the earlier stuff. Like, obviously Felix Leiter was played by the same actor consistently. I mean, M was always played by the same actor consistently. M and Moneypenny. M was the original M. Bernard Lee was played M all the way from Doctor No, very first movie, all the way up till he died, and he died right after doing Moonraker in 1979. And then same with Lois Maxwell, played the original Miss Moneypenny in the Eon Productions. She played Miss Moneypenny all the way from Doctor No, all the way till View to a Kill, and then they retired her. She was obviously she was approaching 60. She was about the same age as Roger Moore and Connery, and they kind of retired. They retired her, and then Timothy Dalton came in. They changed all the. They didn't change all the actors. They changed the only actor that they retained from Roger Moore was the second M, the one that followed Bernard Lee's M. So I forget his actor's name, but he worked up until Timothy Dalton ended, and then of course we all know Judi Dench took over as M for Pierce Brosnan and for the first 3 Daniel Craig movies. So you kind of wonder because of Judi Dench if Daniel Craig's Bond is the same Bond as Pierce Brosnan, but at the same time they rebooted so that Daniel Craig was a younger Bond who became a 00 agent. So he was basically a reboot. They basically wanted to restart it with Casino Royale. Casino Royale was the first James Bond story, James Bond novel. So they kind of wanted to reboot it. So they rebooted Bond with Daniel Craig. And so they killed the rebooted Bond. So they killed him off too. So what will they do next? Well, I already said it. They should bring back original Bond, original continuity, original continuity Bond that never died, that just simply kept swapping actors. The immortal Bond. Bring back the immortal Bond. That's what I say. Bring back the immortal Bond. whoever would that be would be, take over for Pierce Brosnan, the true successor to Pierce Brosnan. So um, we'll see. We'll see what they do. I'm going to pay attention to what they did. So just to recap what I'm going to do before I head out. This was a good movie, in my opinion. It was it the best Bond movie? No. Is it in the top 10? Probably not. Probably between 10 to 15. It was better. It was better than some. It was not the it's not the movie that it was marketed as, and whoever did the marketing needs to find a new career, in my opinion. And the critical drinker said that same thing. It was horribly marketed, and just if you're going to market something, make it so that your fan base, the people that are willing to spend the money, make sure that they are happy and stuff. If they're happy, you will guarantee success. When you decide not to be happy and decide to, engage in bad behavior and act all what do you call it, entitled, well, you're setting yourself up for failure. That's all I'm going to say. So don't alienate your fan base. And if you want to do new stuff, do new stuff. But you have to respect what came before, but also pave the way forward. You don't have to be held to that, but you have to, you just have to, basically, treat your customers happy. Treat your customers right. So other than that, it was a good movie. So some announcements I want to make. Well, I am going to be streaming again tomorrow. So I got my Elgato working. I did a test stream. I did a little private test stream, and I'm able to play Nintendo Switch games on. I'm able to stream Nintendo Switch games on my computer, so I can now stream stuff from my channel. So tomorrow night, I don't know the exact time yet. I'll figure that out. I'm going to start streaming Metroid Dread. I'm going to get the game in the mail from Amazon, and then I'm going to play it. And it's going to be fun. And everything I've been hearing about the game is this game's going to be fantastic. So I can't wait to play it. And if you guys want to come and see the game for yourself, feel free to come and join me if you're not doing anything. I know a certain Friday night Tights is going to be on at the same time, but maybe come and maybe do a little multitasking. Okay, that's asking a little too much, but yeah. So I'm going to be on tomorrow night. I'm going to be talking. I'm going to be doing my usual video game stream Friday and talking, just chatting, talking about Metroid and other Nintendo stuff and enjoying the game. So I can't wait to play it. It's the first sequel in 19 years. So I'm going to be doing that. And this movie is going to be the first of a trilogy for me, because next week is going to be Halloween Kills. I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to go see the movie and do a reaction stream. I'm supposed to do a stream with the Geek Blend, but he still has not gotten back to me. So hopefully, so hopefully if he gets back to me, we could talk Halloween, because he's a big fan of Halloween 2018 and the Halloween films in general. And I think he'd be a great person to talk to. He's a great channel. If you're not subscribed to him, Geek Blend's a great channel. And hopefully we can set something up. But yeah, so next week I'm going to see Halloween Kills. And then the week after that is going to be Dune. Denis Villeneuve's Dune, Part 1. And I'm hoping that they make Part 2, but that movie looks incredible from the trailer I've seen. And Dune is basically science fiction. It's the science fiction version of Lord of the Rings, kind of. It's not an epic. But it deals with it's an epic story. It's very different though. And Tolkien himself found the story boring and stuff, probably because the story is allegorical to the spice is allegorical to, fossil fuel and stuff, and Tolkien was never a fan of, allegory. He found allegory boring, and he could see right through it right away, and that's probably why he did not care for, he kind of found Dune boring. But as much as we love Tolkien is entitled to his opinion. I mean, a lot of people like Dune, and Dune. I've read some of. I've listened to the audiobook, the first 12 chapters. It's really well written. It's well versed in philosophy and psychology and all that stuff. And it's a lot of world. There's quite a bit of world building. I mean, there's a big universe for Dune and stuff. Like, he really does a lot of world building. So I can't wait to see that. I did like Blade Runner 2049. Was it the best movie ever? No, but it was. I mean, I liked it just as much as Blade Runner. I know it's sacrilege to say that, but people complained that 2049 was a boring film. Well, so was the original Blade Runner. The only thing the original Blade Runner had was that it told its story complete, and the best character was Roy Batty. And I mean, the movie kind of depicts him as a villain because he gouges out that Tyrell guy, the owner of the Tyrell Corporation, gouges out his eyes because the Tyrell guy, the owner, cannot help him, give him more life. He's about to die, so he does that, and he has that famous little speech, tears in the rain speech. That's every sci-fi fan, every film fan knows of. So, but yeah, but yeah, Denis Villeneuve is doing this Dune movie. It looks great. Even listening to the audiobook, I'm imagining Duke Leto as Oscar Isaac, and I'm imagining Paul Atreides as what's his name, Timothy Chalamet. And I mean, even envisioning Baron Harkonnen as what's his name, Stellan Skarsgård, who is also in he was the scientist in the Thor movies and stuff. So I'm imagining those newer actors as opposed to the original, the old David Lynch movie. The old David Lynch movie is, I mean, it's a wacky little film, but it's very the characters are so it's an acquired taste. Like David Lynch films in general are acquired taste. So, but yeah, so those are the three movies I'm going to be seeing this month, and then of course next month before Thanksgiving, Ghostbusters is going to come out. I'm going to cover that. I'm going to go see that, and then December, right before Christmas, Matrix. So those are the big movies that I'm going to see for this year. So once again, thank you everyone for joining me. It's a very bittersweet. It's a very bittersweet moment for me seeing this movie and experiencing it. But if you haven't seen it, go and see it. It's I saw it in IMAX. It was really cool seeing it in IMAX, and I thought Daniel Craig did a great job as Bond in this one. And it's I mean, you guys might disagree with me, but I thought it was a wonderful little movie and stuff, despite him dying. I'm still kind of split on that, but hey, that's life. So, all right, guys, check me out. So yeah, hopefully I'll get some more videos out soon. And well, everyone. So who's still here? So Jacob J is here. Punkwild still here. Pacific's here. Anyone else is here? I'll address some of the stuff in the chat. So Jacob J says, honestly, I personally like how they handled Kirk's death in Generations. And I did not. He literally, his last words was, "Oh my," and he literally died on a bridge. So, who else is here? Whoopa Troopa says, last movie I saw in the theaters was Free Guy. That was a great one. Yeah, you did talk about it. I'll have to see it eventually. Jacob says, ready for Sonic 2? Yeah, they're bringing Tails into the movie, and then Knuckles is going to be played by Idris Elba. So, Punkwild says, don't forget to smirsh that like button. So, yeah. Jake D says, sorry, have been lurking tonight. Oh, okay, I see. So my master of marketing was kind of, out of gas. Spock was here. The one and only Spock was here. It says hail to everyone. Casual Gamer was here. Thanks guys for coming by. It was pretty cool. And I think everyone else I talked to. So thanks for whoever, all you guys that came. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. It's been a wild thing. So this is part one of two for when it comes to streams for the next 2 days, or well, not next 2 days, today and tomorrow. So come on by for Metroid. I'll just say that once. So other than that, thanks for coming by. And remember, stay nerdporial, everyone. And may the wings of nerdporials carry you to happiness, especially in times when the passage of time, characters go away with the passage of time. But in Bond's case, he's coming back even though he died. So who knows at this point? Other than that, take care, everyone. See ya.